You may have noticed the background has changed somewhat, so we're going out of this world completely and utterly. Scientists say that they hope to have another go at launching the Boeing Starliner spacecraft next week.
Yes, the mission, which aims to send astronauts to the International Space Station, was aborted yesterday, just 4 minutes before takeoff. Our science correspondent, Palab Ghosh, reports.
Starliner visors open, please.
Boeing's long-delayed Starliner. With 4 minutes to go, the spacecraft's flight controllers said it was ready for launch.
Propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
But then the computer said no.
Hold. Flight controller C to CCLS, hold it.
The flight was scrubbed and out came the astronauts.
Roger.
What happens next is that the crew has been disembarked from the spacecraft for the second time now. So last time they were within 2 hours of launch, this time within minutes, 4 minutes. They're taken back to their quarters and then the investigation begins.
Initial findings suggest that the system failed to allow a computer-controlled launch. Those in charge need to find out why.
This is the business that we're in. Everything's got to work perfectly, like we've talked before. Today we got really close. It didn't work for us. The team's very professional. They're in their 24-hour scrub work turnaround right now, and when we're ready to go, they'll be ready to go.
When the spacecraft is ready for launch, its role is to take crew and cargo to the International Space Station. Starliner is a brand new spacecraft that looks like the Apollo module that was used in the moon landings more than 50 years ago. It carried 3 astronauts, whereas Starliner has a maximum capacity of 7. The spacecraft will take a day to reach the space station, when it'll test out its docking and cargo transportation systems. The mission will last around a week, and on returning to Earth, the crew will experience Starliner's landing system, which will touch down in the deserts of the southwestern United States. The Boeing spacecraft can only take off at fixed times to rendezvous with the space station. The next launch opportunities are Wednesday and Thursday. If the problem hasn't been sorted by then, the test flight will face yet another long delay. Palab Ghosh, BBC News.
Well, we're joined now by Dr. Eamonn Kerins from the Jodrell Bank Centre for Astrophysics. Thank you for coming and joining us here. Pleasure. So take us through what happened. 4 minutes to go, everyone's strapped in, countdown's about to start, and then it's all called off. What's your best guess as to what happened?
Yeah, it must have felt so disappointing for the 2 astronauts. But what appeared to happen is at around about 4 minutes, there's an automatic hold. And at that stage, there's 3 linked computers that are located at the launch pad, and they are responsible for the final few minutes and the actual launch sequence. And so it's the ground launch sequencer. And these 3 computers have to all agree at the same time on everything that's going on. And it appears that one of them was slightly late in syncing with the other 2. They don't, I think, yet know why that is, but that was enough to trigger a hold. And once the hold happens, that's an automatic, at least 24-hour delay. And
of course, we've seen lots of launches recently, but when there's people on board, there's a whole different level, right?
Absolutely, and so there's a brand new craft, that's the Boeing Starliner. NASA has actually only ever had 6 distinct spacecraft to launch humans. So we had Mercury, then Gemini, then the Apollo missions, the shuttle, recently Elon Musk's Dragon 2 capsule, and now this is the 6th. NASA's looking for, cheaper and better ways and more options to get people to the International Space Station. So everything's got to be right on this first launch, and the rocket that propels it up as well, the first time, although that's a very well-used rocket, it's the first time it's been used to launch humans.
What we're seeing was just then were images from yesterday when it was all meant to happen. Before that, we saw an animation of what was supposed to happen.
Yep.
When they cancel a launch like that, presumably there's a lot of cost involved.
Absolutely. They've got to... I mean, first of all, there's that wait around for those astronauts. They're poor astronauts. They've already been on board for a few hours before the launch, and they have to wait for everything to be made safe. And then they've got to take out all the fuel from the rockets, and then the crew can, the ground crew can access the computers, try and find out what's going on. So it's incredibly expensive. They were hoping to get it back up later today, but I think that's now also been shelved. It's looking like the next opportunity is maybe next Wednesday or Thursday.
And what's the aim of this mission?
Well, apart from trialling out a brand new craft and giving NASA another option other than the Dragon 2 capsule, that's one of the things. It's a drive to help make space cheaper. The other aim, actually, the International Space Station's got 7 people on board at the moment. They have their urine, their wee, is recycled for their drinking water. There's a saying on board the space station that yesterday's coffee is tomorrow's coffee, and that's what they mean. And the system, the pump that does that, has broken. It broke on Wednesday. And so one of the things that this craft was supposed to do is bring a new pump to the space station. So at the moment, they're having to store their urine until they can get out.
Let's move on to a very successful mission
yeah,
yesterday.
It's probably just as well.
We haven't got much time, so just take us through. This is a Chinese mission which did land successfully on the far side of the moon.
Absolutely. So it's hotting up, right? There's lots of space activity going on the US side, on the Chinese side. So this craft, Chang'e 6, is the first to attempt to retrieve lunar soil from the far side. It's landed, and it's now going to use an excavator arm and a drill to drill into the far side. It's landed at the South Pole Aitken Basin, a really interesting area on the far side of the moon. It's got some of the deepest terrain on the moon, and it's also ringed by some of the tallest mountains on the moon. In fact, the South Pole Aitken Basin is one of the largest craters we know of in the solar system. So it appears that a very long time ago in the moon's history, something very large smashed into it. The mixture, as far as we can tell, of material on the moon and that region looks very different from the material that the Apollo astronauts retrieved. So it'll be very interesting. They'll learn a lot about the moon by recovering material from that region. But there's a bigger aim too. You know, China are intending to put people on the moon by 2030. That's their stated aim. The US are obviously gearing up with the Artemis mission to do the same. And the intention on both of these countries is to have more of a permanent presence, to build space stations, to build lunar bases, to live and work on the moon. So this is a very, very exciting time, really.
It's fascinating
yeah, it really
and
is.
exciting. We'll have to leave it there because we're running out of time on the programme. Dr.
Sure.
Eamonn Kerins, thank you so much for taking us through that.
Thank you. I'll be watching on Wednesday for that next attempt.